Today, the economics of politics, or the politics of economics. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to this post covering finance and broad news with a distinctively Australian flavour. On Tuesday at 8 p.m. Sydney time, I'll be joined in my live stream with Professor Steve Keen and also Victor Klein, the founder of the New Liberals. And I want this to be an interesting discussion on a very important philosophical point, which is what is the relationship between economics and politics and economics? Because it seems to me that over recent times, some basic questions need to be asked about just that. For example, Scott Morrison is talking about net zero, but allowing the market to drive it. And of course, we've seen already in Australia major industrial and financial entities receiving massive amounts of money from the government to do specific things and also exerting huge lobbying power on the political processes. So in some ways, you've got to say that politics is being informed by economics, perhaps, but actually it's also being informed by a particular view of the market, which is that market forces, and particularly those with clout, have huge influence. Another example would be COP26, where again, the biggest lobbyists were actually the oil industry. And in a later post, I'll probably go through some of the more detailed findings from the last 2 weeks. But it is interesting to notice how the various forces are pushing in particular directions, and the clout and the money definitely has a significant impact on the political decisions. And it comes back, to my mind, to a really important question. Because underlying most of the political processes at the moment is a standard neoliberal view, which effectively says government should get out of the way, the market should be allowed to rip, and there may be a little regulation, but we like regulation and it will be non-directive. Except, of course, that over the last 2 years, governments around the world and in Australia have been highly directive and have thrown billions and billions of dollars into the system to achieve certain outcomes, some of which I think are highly questionable. Think of some of the money that went to firms that didn't need it through JobKeeper, for example. So the conversation that I want to have is, what is the true relationship between politics and economics? And how do those two different disciplines interact? And very importantly, how can change be wrought if, in fact, the fundamental neoliberal view of the world determines absolutely everything that's done? And in a way, my observation is that both within Treasury and within the Reserve Bank, and you could say also in the US too, neoliberalism is definitely in vogue, and yet they also are moving further and further away from free market activity through all those stimulus packages and everything else that's going on. So it begs the question, what is the right degree of intervention from government? How are those interventions executed and delivered? And how does the big end of town and their influence fold into political decisions over and against ordinary people, both businesses and consumers? And whilst we have a ballot box, and while people in Australia are forced to vote, actually the votes don't necessarily seem to make a lot of difference in terms of outcomes, which takes us right back to the New Liberals and their philosophies and approaches. So it'll be interesting to explore some of these thematics on Tuesday, and in fact over the next few weeks I want to take this discussion a little further. I'd also make the point that we're probably going to have quite a few questions to deal with, so if you want to table a question ahead of time, you can simply do that by going to the DFA website and there use the little app that allows you to send the question in ahead of time. So you can ask Steve about his new book, you can ask Victor about the latest policies from the New Liberals. And of course, Steve is also standing as a candidate as well. So the politics and economics debate is something that will be very interesting to explore and very relevant to the Tuesday conversation. So mark your diaries, and I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Sydney time. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.